Welcome to Pre-Snap Look, our PIAA Playoff Edition, Week 2. I'm Bruce Badgley, my co-host all year, Joe Santoliquito, and as a very special guest again, the man, Mr. Media Man. Now, golly's on all these shows all over the place, from the Lehigh Valley to, state shows. Mr. Dave Mika from EasternPAFootball.com, our good buddy. How we doing tonight, guys?
Doing great. I mean, we're 2 weeks away from being in Hershey, and hey, it's either you win, you move on, you lose, you pack up and get ready for next year.
Yeah, it's always a great time of year. The great weather. Love the coloring of this time of year. It's awesome. And it's it's a super time of year with it's a time of year that the heroes are made. I mean, you have people that young men here that'll be playing games that they'll take with them and remember with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us guys that are streaming games, it was freezing our butt off outside for a couple days here this weekend, but having a couple of great games that I saw, which were, fantastic, as same thing with Joe and obviously Dave, seeing a lot of great matchups. But related to District 12 and District 1, we still have teams in the PIAA 3A, PIAA 4A, gonna crown district or PIAA semifinal 5A as well as 6A. So, I mean, we're all PIAA all the time now on this show, right, Joe?
Yeah. It's just that's what we have left. And the best are left. So it's like I said, it's a great time of year, and there's some teams that are here that we didn't expect to be here. And there's some teams that are here that we did expect to be here.
And that's always usually the case. And, but, one of the teams or a couple of the teams that are usually here are in the 3A semifinal. They don't necessarily meet in the semifinal, but Newman Goretti and Wyomissing face off, I believe, at Penn Ridge now, Friday night, Dave, and talk a little bit about
hang on. Now they're meeting each other, but according to Coach Crosby 25 minutes ago, I don't know if they're meeting at Penn Ridge on Friday at 7 p.m. according to him. He told me that he's nixed that. He told me that there's possibilities of a 1 o'clock game at Ridley on Saturday afternoon, which would work great for me and great for Dave. So I'm obviously
breaking news then.
Yeah. So we'll see where
it's on the website. I mean,
it's on the website. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see where that goes. I mean, it's on the website, but changes could be made. I don't think I don't know if Newman Goretti's actually crazy about going to Penn Ridge at 7 o'clock on Friday night. That's what I know.
Yeah, and we'll have that discussion after we talk about these games. Dave and I were alluding to a little bit of the issues that obviously everybody's seen in that, but let's go ahead and talk about 3A first, whether it's going to be obviously Friday or Saturday. A great matchup, Dave, between Wyomissing and Newman Goretti. I mean, both of these teams were played. Obviously, Wyomissing made it all the way to Hershey last year. Goretti, I believe, lost in the semifinals last year. So, what do you expect out of this game?
You look at Wyo, they're going to throw 6 to, sometimes 8 different running backs a game. And, they have a very, I think now, experienced offensive line. And, obviously they want to pound the ball, control the clock, and keep Newman Goretti's offense off the field. But, I mean, going into this game, you have Wyomissing, for the season, averaging just under 45 points a game. And Newman Goretti is averaging almost 34 points. But what's interesting is defensively, they both are giving up around, 8.6, 8.9 points all year. So they, defensively, both teams don't give up a lot of points. So low scoring game, who does that favor? Joe, what do you think?
I don't know much about why I'm missing. I do know quite a bit about Newman Goretti. I do know, and by the way, that was actually Coach Albie there. So it is going to be at 7:00 at Penridge on Friday night. So he just confirmed that. Not crazy about it, but you got to do sometimes what you got to do. What I do know of Newman Goretti came earlier this season. I saw a team that was very, very, very good in the defensive side. I saw a team that killed itself offensively with the number of mistakes that they made. I'd like to think that those mistakes have since been addressed and cured. I know how explosive Newman Goretti can be. Again, you guys have a greater understanding of why I'm missing than I would have. And you guys have seen both teams. If you guys were to say, put a line on this game, where do you think the line would go? Maybe why I'm missing a -5, why I'm missing a -4? Who would be the favorite and by how many?
Well, that is a great question.
That is, to me, I think YO might be a 2-point favorite. I really think this game's going to be a close game. Just looking at what Newman has done in the playoffs, they're keeping all these games close for the most. And, listen, why I'm missing is a tremendous team, a lot of talent, a great running team. So it's going to be interesting to see, and especially Newman Goretti. How do they see a lot of wing T, Joe?
I don't think so. No,
Nobody
no.
sees the wing T, and that's what
Yeah,
makes it so effective, Dave, is the fact that it's run by so few teams. And Wyomissing won their game with Scranton Prep, having not, you talked about running the football. They didn't even attempt to
yeah,
pass. Okay. I mean, they didn't even
yeah.
attempt to pass. So, and they
Now in
didn't need
that
to.
game, well, yeah, and in that game too, Scranton Prep lost their 2,000-yard rusher early in the game, which
Yep.
really changed everything for them.
Oh, sure.
But you're
Sure.
right. Going to this game, listen, the winner moves on to Hershey, and I think it could be a close game. I don't think one or the other is gonna blow each other out. It's gonna be about maybe the little things, turnovers, special teams that could win this game this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. As with most playoff games, I think that it's a very important part of the game or special teams. I know that Wyo is a pretty good field goal kicker and Ian Levering.
Hmm.
But I'd have to say the most valuable player on Wyomissing's team, and I think if you ask the Wyomissing team, it's their tackle, Javen Williams.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
the guy gets. It was funny. I talked to him after a Wild game earlier this year, and I was asking him. I go like, usually after a running play, the guy who carries the ball is the one that gets the high fives. On Wyo's team, it's the tackle. Everybody's high fiving the tackle, after the play. And, I mean, that just kind of, tells you, I think, as much as you need to know about this team, where they understand the fact that, it's those guys up front that are, opening the holes for them. And the way that they run their offensive sets is so good. I mean, they do a lot of, work and action inside the tackles that keeps, the linemen and the linebackers in place so that when they do run wide, these guys can't cheat. And it just leads to actually more open space on the outside because they're doing these inside handoffs between one back and another within the tackles. So it's a very interesting offense. It's one that I think is going to test the Goretti defense, which is very good. I agree with Dave that
Mhm.
it's not going to be. I think this is going to be a low scoring game, only because of the fact that I think that each team is going to have a difficult time, moving the ball against the other. Goretti's speed, I think, is going to be, effective against the outside running attack of why I'm missing, but those guys only need a little bit of space to get through. They got a good running
Mhm.
back in Tom
Where's
Grabowski.
where's the why missing tackle going?
He's only a junior,
Oh,
so he
yes.
has not decided. I mean, he's got an offer from Penn State and a couple other Power 5 teams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's and I'm sure he's going to get obviously other offers after the season. It's pretty clear, but he's already gotten an offer from Penn
Hang
State.
on, I got a world champ call me. Bear with me, guys.
Okay. Well, Dave and I'll
Yes,
take
Dave.
it while you're on the phone, but
Mhm.
still,
And
Dave.
Bear
and
with me here.
looking at this too is listen, Newman Greta has star power on the defensive side.
They
Anthony
do.
Johnson, I think so. Here's a guy that, you know, 87 tackles, a tremendous linebacker on that side. Sean Battle is another one, who's a big time player for Newman Greta. These are the guys that, when you look at Wyo's offense, these are the guys that are going to need to make plays.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's going to be an interesting chess match between Wyo's wing T offense versus Newman Greta's defense.
You have two great coaches too. Bob Wolfram, who's just a legend. Has got a
Hmm.
state championship under his belt when it was,
Yep.
2A a few years ago. I ran into Coach Crosby. We said hello to each other in the sidelines
Yeah.
at the YO game at the District 3 championship game
Hmm.
on a Saturday afternoon. So he was out scouting this team, himself. But I think two great coaches, two great teams, gonna be a very competitive game. Joe's question was if we had to put a line on it. I'd have to say that the line would be like about 1.5 YO, only because Wyo's traveling down to Philly, but it doesn't Philly area. It doesn't sound like it's too much of a home field advantage for Goretti if Coach Crosby not really interested in playing on a Friday night. But it is what it is. I mean, here's the
Yeah.
situation too: is the fact that Wyo didn't play till Saturday. So I mean, Goretti is and did they play on Friday or Saturday in Danville? I can't remember. But that could
It
be an advantage.
was on the 26th when they played. So I
So
think it was Friday.
Friday
yeah,
night, yeah.
so
Yeah.
play right. They played. It was a 6 o'clock game on Friday, where they've
Mhm.
had hey, an extra day of rest. That means an awful lot.
Yeah.
So but to answer Joe's question, I'd say it'd be about 1.5 for Wyo.
I'm going to take the
Thoughts,
easy
Joe?
route. I'm going to take the easy route and call it a pick 'em.
Okay,
I'm going
all
to call
right.
it a
Well,
pick 'em. So,
Well, there you go.
because I
Well,
don't know,
that's
I
good.
really honestly don't know much about YO. I know they've been there. I know New McGrady hasn't. I know that's a factor in determining
Mhm.
these things, but I also know the type of players. Sean Battle's outstanding.
Yes.
Anthony Johnson, who's bound for Rutgers, is outstanding. So there's quite a bit of
There's
talent.
star power. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some star power that can perform. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw them earlier this season, and I think they're actually better now than they were when I saw them in September.
Well, in the 4A game, it's another matchup of District 3, and this time against District 1, where Bishop McDevitt kind of coming down into District 1 country, and they're playing Bishop Shanahan at Coatesville, Shanahan, a come from behind win on a real road game up there in Valley View, Dave. I mean, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Joe, have you seen Shanahan at all
Have not,
by
no,
chance?
no, I've been, no, not this season.
Okay. Yeah, it was a tremendous win for them to go up there and beat a very good Valley View team. Valley View was missing a key player from their team that got hurt earlier in the season. And, hey, hats off to Bishop Shanahan. I don't know if they've ever been this far in the playoffs, but they're going to go up against, I feel, a very good Bishop McDevitt team. I know that they came away with a nice 7-0 win last weekend, but this is a team that I've had number one pretty much all year. And, everyone knows about
McDevitt?
McDevitt's offense. Yes, McDevitt
Mhm.
and McDevitt's offense. But I'll tell you what, their defense is getting better and better each week. And, they have a really good, team. And to me, if I would had to put a line on that game, I would definitely favor McDevitt in this game, by a touchdown in this game.
How about you, Joe?
From what I know of both teams, I might even go a little bit further and go McDevitt maybe plus 12 or 13 or minus 12 or 13. From what I know, and what I do know, admittedly, is very, very limited about this level.
And I tell you what, I think it was enormously impressive how, Shanahan going through the adversity to win that game on the road the way that they did, with two late touchdowns. Kudos to that. But I agree with you, Dave. I mean, Bishop McDevitt, even though they've got their star power, they've got their quarterback and running back who've got Power 5 offers, and the quarterback being a freshman already with Power 5 offers. Coach Wachter, I mean, and all that experience that they have, you touched on that about the fact that, Shanahan really hasn't been here. And, so much about playoffs are a process. I mean, you have to almost get to a point where you can move beyond that. And I think that that's a thing that I look at a lot of games is, has that team been there before? Because emotionally it means, I think, so much. And if they haven't been there before, then, most likely getting past that last rung on the ladder, sometimes emotionally the tank is empty when they move on in the PIAA playoffs if they haven't been there before. So that's why I agree with, maybe Joe, the fact that McDevitt, I wouldn't call him a prohibitive favorite, but I would call him, a big favorite, even though they're going down to District 1 country in Coatesville.
And listen, Shanahan, their quarterback, Cooper Jordan, he really had a good game up there. He didn't throw for a lot of yards, but
well, they won it on a defensive
this,
interception. I mean, it was well, I guess that was, I didn't say that weren't the winning points, but the telling tale was a late interception, long interception return touchdown.
But I mean, this kid was 10 of 12 passing for over 130 yards and added 60 some yards rushing. So obviously he's a big key for them to in this game, and he's gonna have to make big plays. And one of the guys, I think the two wide receivers, maybe the Colin McGrory is one of his I think key receivers. These guys need to step up, but again, defensively, Shanahan, they need to look at the film from last week and figure out how to slow down Bishop McDevitt, because I think last week Lampeter did a tremendous job. You know, this is a 7-0 game. So
Yeah, and Joe, I mean, I think obviously it sounds like we're all in agreement that we think McDevitt the likely winner of this one. 5A. All right, now we're kind of getting into Joe's territory here.
yeah.
So we'll start with you on, the 5A matchup between TEP and Strathaven.
It's a shame I don't think there is much of a matchup here. If Imhotep wanted to, they could probably score 100. Coach Devin Johnson would not do that, would not allow that. Strathaven looked excellent. And they are coached by a legend. They're coached by a Hall of Fame coach in Kevin Clancy. Utmost respect to Kevin, utmost respect to Strathaven and what that team and what those young men have done this season. But the facts are the facts. I mean, Imhotep, and Dave may agree with me, I think, with this. And I use the operative word being arguably. They may arguably be the best team in the state this season. We saw what they are capable of doing. They go across the state to play Erie Cathedral Prep, a team that they've had nightmares with in past years. And they destroyed them, absolutely destroyed them, and probably could have dropped 50 or maybe 60 on them. Trey McLeod, who's only a sophomore, had an incredible game. I think it was 397 he rushed for. And this is a team that goes 5 or 6 running backs deep. This is a team that has maybe 2 or 3 players that we may even be seeing beyond Saturdays and possibly playing on Sundays, obviously starting first and foremost with Eni White, the top edge rusher in the nation.
Yeah.
So this is a team that comes at you in so many different ways. I'm going to put the definition of this game on the scale of a brisk scrimmage. A brisk scrimmage, a nice scrimmage to keep the blood flowing and to keep things going. It's just, you have one team that is incredibly talented, incredibly motivated, and they may get off to a little bit of a slow start. I see, if anything, I see Imhotep as maybe, and I'm being modest with this, maybe a minus 25. This is going to be a mercy rule game. I don't mean to demean the Strathaven program at all. Again, kudos to what those young men have done. District championship, upsetting Ruston, because I think I would define that as an upset. I would have gone into that saying Ruston might have been a minus 3 or minus 4 favorite going into that game, and Strathaven and what they did, and they run a wing tee. They run out of a wing tee. They'll cause some confusion in the beginning, maybe a little bit here and there. But once Imhotep gets it down and once they get rolling, they are like, just slow Novocaine, man. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. And before you know it, you're numb and you look up at the scoreboard and it says 63-7. So that is probably 99.9% what's probably going to happen. It's just the way it is. It is it's the laws of football. It's the laws of high school football at this level. You have one team that is significantly better and another team that, again, is very, very good. Strathaven is a very good football team. They are one of 4 teams playing in December at the 5A level, and they deserve their kudos for that. But again, they are dealing with the beast, and Imhotep is a beast, and we all know that. So, this is going to get ugly, and it could get ugly rather fast.
Well, Joe, so a District 10 reporter said about Imhotep that is the best defense in the state. He goes, they have multiple Division I talent on that side. And you know as well as I do that their offense is probably peaking at the right time.
Exactly, yeah.
And it makes them so much more dangerous. And you're right. I mean, right now, I would say that they are the favorites in 5A. But listen, Strathaven's like an old friend. They were a power back in the day when Burrick Allentown Central Catholic, Bethlehem Catholic, when all those teams were powers back in the day. So it's great to see Strathaven back. And yeah, they're going to be up against, a team that to me is, a pretty heavy favorite to get to Hershey and possibly win a state title. And you kind of look at the other bracket, you have another East team out there, Exeter, which I know, Bruce, you've seen them a lot. Do you think there could be a little letdown this week going into this game because of emotional, victory against Governor Mifflin?
Oh, I've seen that so many times where teams, they set their sights on a certain goal, and once they achieve it, it's like, wow, we have another game to play. I've seen that so many times with teams that, their goal is to win a district championship, like Exeter. They've not ever, won. This is their first ever district championship. So,
Yep.
It's very difficult for teams emotionally to summon that level of emotion. They actually need more emotion and more energy than what it took to win that district championship, to win then a semifinal state playoff game. And, sometimes there's only so much, emotion and what have you that a team can muster. I don't think that from a Strathaven perspective that that's going to be the case against, Imhotep. I think that, this goes way beyond. I mean, the amount of talent that they're going into are going up against is way beyond any kind of emotional or energy or what have you. I think that they could summon. I mean, as you both have aptly pointed out, that Imhotep is playing probably the best football of any team in the state, regardless of classification.
And what have you heard about Penn Trafford through Ian?
Oh, they're a good team. In fact, I picked Penn Trafford. I thought that they would beat Moon. They're a very good team. They have a D1 recruit who's had a tremendous year. You always seem to have that transcendent player. And Penn Trafford's gotten that, but this is another team. And I guess this would be the only thing that I could say for Exeter is the fact that they're facing a team who's in the same boat as them. Penn Trafford had never won a WPIAL championship. Same thing with now Exeter. They never won a District 3 championship. Yeah. So you're looking at probably the equal amounts of, energy or what have you that they've expended to get to this particular point. And thankfully, that's going to make it a very good game between the two, I think. So I think it's as Joe, since he's the one that set the example that it's going to be a pick'em, I would say that that's a pick'em game. Exeter very powerful in the running game, but I mean they've got a Penn State commit tight end and Joey Schlaffer, who is a matchup nightmare at 6'7". And they've got other D1 talent, on the team as well. A big offensive line that works very well. That's going to be a very interesting matchup, and I would call that a pick'em game. And it's going to be it's going to be very interesting. I'm sorry that it's like 3 hours away or up at Bald Eagle on a Friday. I mean, it's almost impossible to get. And we'll talk about that at the end about about that. But we kind of segued into a little district, Eastern PA stuff here, but that's okay. That's our show, right?
I think the state championship was played last week.
Yeah.
When Imhotep beat Erie Cathedral Prep, I think two of the best 5A teams. In my opinion, they are the two of the best 5A teams in the state. And I think it was decided last week. I don't know too much about those teams in the West. They may have some talent. You said the one team has a couple of D1 Power 5 recruits. Imhotep has 5 on defense alone. So
Yeah.
it is a rolling boulder that has now momentum behind it in a deep running game. It has an offensive line now that is working and is cohesive. It has now a sophomore quarterback that knows what he's doing, has confidence in what he's doing. And it's talking about the pieces coming together at the right time, the pieces coming together and incredibly the right time for Coach Devin Johnson and the Imhotep Panthers. And it's just, this is going to be, they're going to win they're going to win the state championship.
Well,
And just looking at the scoring stats, regular season, Imhotep's only given up 6 points all year. I mean, 6 points a game all year. And looking at the playoffs, they're only giving up 4.6 points per game.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great stat, Dave. I mean, just looking at the playoffs, that's where you got your highest caliber teams. And actually, the defense is playing better in the tougher matchups. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But look at their offensive stats. You should take a look at their offensive stats. And let's just say margin of victory in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Off the charts. I mean, it's just off the charts. I mean, they're clearly playing the best football, I think, of any team in the state.
It would have been interesting, Joe. We know earlier in the season, Imhotep's offense was not as good as what it is now. And could their defense would they been able to carry them all the way to Hershey with that offense that they had earlier in the season? Because right now they are just to me a complete team.
I don't think so. I mean, they were winning. They beat Pittsburgh Central Catholic out there by the skin of their teeth. They beat them at Bruce and I were at LaSalle. Should have beaten LaSalle if Trey McLeod was healthy in that game again. I said it before. They probably would have won that game. But Stewart comes in, who does a decent job and is a very, very good defensive player who's getting serious major D1 looks. So again, everything is there. It's coming together at the right time. And again, Imhotep, I think Imhotep could beat any 6A team in the state with the exception of a handful. And I'm not saying they would lose to those teams. I would say they'd be very good football games. I don't think Imhotep's rolling over Garnet Valley or St. Joe's Prep by major scores. But guess what, though? I don't think Garnet Valley or St. Joe's Prep is certainly not going to roll over Imhotep. I think right now they are arguably the best team in the state.
Well, since you segue right into St. Joe Prep and Garnet Valley, a matchup that everybody I think was hoping to get. We've got it. Actually, both teams, based on past history, kind of got there the way the other used to get there. Garnet Valley,
great point, Bruce.
basically rolling through the playoffs. And, St. Joe Prep, I mean, winning, but obviously not by the types of margins that we're accustomed to seeing. So Dave, we'll start with you. I mean, your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the bracket. Prep playing LaSalle won 35-7. They beat Northeast 41-6. And then last week, 24-21. I know Freedom scored a late touchdown, I think under a minute in the game. But Freedom out of District 11 gave everything they had, and I think it was a competitive game. And Prep, at times they look like no one could beat him, and then at times they look beatable. So sometimes you don't know which Prep team is going to show up. But Joe and I talked about this before. Is when they beat LaSalle, I'm sure all Prep heard and saw on Twitter was LaSalle's going to beat Prep again. And well, you saw the result. It's kind of, similar that, I think this week they're going to see a lot of, people are going to say Garnet Valley's going to beat them. and we'll see what happens, because it seems like when Prep, when their backs are against the wall, they seem to come out and play a really good game. So to me, I still don't know who I'm gonna pick. I think it could be a close game, but I would not be shocked if one of them wins by a pretty good margin.
Well, we have to say which one.
I think, Dave, if one of them wins by a big margin, the team that's going to win by the big margin is Garnet Valley.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
They are. If Imhotep is the runaway freight train, I would call Garnet Valley the semi, the runaway semi right now, and how they are crushing people. I mean, Coachville doesn't get beat the way Coachville got beat. It's a decent Coachville team. It's a down Coachville team. It's not the kind of Coachville team that Coach Ortega's had in the past. But Coachville simply doesn't get destroyed 54-15. And here's a really interesting stat of that game. And this tells you about the mentality of Coach Mike Rickey and his mentality throughout this whole playoff. And it can happen, and it's going to happen Saturday night when they play St. Joe's Prep. And this is an interesting point, a huge point. Early in that game, very early in that game, when the game was still undecided, Garnet Valley went for it on fourth down. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. It's not a surprise they go for it on fourth down. But here's the surprise. They went for it on fourth down at their own 25, and it was a 4th and 5, and he still went for it. What's that tell you? That tells you we're going all out. We're throwing everything we have onto the table, and we don't care. We're playing for everything right now. And that to me is beyond a gambler's mentality. That to me is a robust mentality that says, hey, I believe in my guys. I believe in what they can do. They believe in themselves. They believe in what they can do. And it's incredible. I mean, there were all kinds of yelling and screaming in the Garnet Valley stands. And this is, again, this is aimed at Coach Rickey, a legendary coach who's been doing this, and this being his last year, doing this for over 30 years. This guy's a Hall of Famer, and you wouldn't believe some of the things that were being shouted at him, as he went for it on that fourth down. And by the way, Garnet Valley made it. And that to me is, as I was looking at, speaking of legendary, I was next to our legendary friend, Jack McCaffrey of the Delco Times. And Jack and I are looking at each other like that was a statement in itself that we're going to go for it on fourth down. I think, by the way, it was late first quarter, second quarter that this was decided. And I believe the score at the time, because I think Coachville had missed its first extra point. So it might have been 7-6. Matter of fact, I could tell you right here, because I have my box score up from the game, 7-7. So it is, we're going to go mid-third quarter. It is 14-13. Garnet Valley's up 14-13. And they went for it, 4th and 5.
Wow.
At their own 25. Midway through the second quarter when that game was, and that could have decided, that could have gave, certainly if Coachville stopped them, it could have turned the sway of that game around and where that game was heading. And Coach Rickey went for it. And that says to me, and I got a strong feeling he's got to go for it again against St. Joe's Prep Saturday night there at Ridley at 7:00. That speaks volumes on the attitude of this team, the mindset of the Garnet Valley team, what they're able to do. And again, Garnet Valley does not have that one stellar star. They don't have that Josiah Trotter. They don't have Samaj Jones. They don't have Keenan Nelson as St. Joe's Prep has. But what they do have are a hell of a lot of really, really, really good football players, like a Shane Reynolds, who's going to Navy, and certainly no slouch. I mean, he had 214 yards and 4 touchdowns in the half against Coachville. Not Little Sisters of the Poor. This is not some kind of a clown cupcake game where you want some kids to get reps in late August, early September to turn around and find out kind of what you have. No, this was against a pretty good, formidable Coachville team, a Coachville team that's had smacked around the previous week, a pretty damn good Ridley team. So you have that on that one side. And you have, by the way, and it needs to be said and it needs to be reiterated, it is a senior-laden team. It is a team,
like,
again, this is
30 kids, right?
This is, I'm sorry?
like 30 kids, 30
Oh, yeah,
seniors.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the deal is, out of those 30 seniors, I think 27 or 28 of them are really good athletes. Max Busitko, for example, their senior starting quarterback, who's a two-way player, both his quarterback, and had two picks in the Coatesville game. Here's an incredible athlete who's going to Notre Dame on a lacrosse scholarship. And Notre Dame is one of the top 5 lacrosse programs in the nation. They don't take slouches. I mean, this young man is a special talent, a special athlete, and that's what Garnet Valley comes at you with. They come at you upon waves, just like I was just saying, like the Chinese during the Korean War, just one wave after another wave after another wave, and you think you wiped out one wave, and the second wave picks up the guns of the dead and keep on coming at you, and that's what they've been doing it with, and that's how they've been winning. I mean, it's a well coached team. It's a disciplined team. The way Coach George Bannis, the Quakertown coach, put it to me, you have to play assignment football. You have to play disciplined football, because if you miss an assignment, if you get blocked a certain way, if you get hit a certain angle, the next thing you know, you're going to have Shane Reynolds going untouched 70 yards down the sideline. And I saw it 3 times against Coatesville last week. And it could happen to St. Joe's Prep.
Well, I've liked Garnet Valley all year. I mean, even when they were ranked number 6 in the state and North Penn was number 1, I was still saying Garnet Valley was my number 1 in 6A in the state. So I'm not going away from that. But St. Joe Prep, obviously, playing very well. I mean, you pointed out, Dave, the fact that they're on a roll. But I believe it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. I'll be honest with you. I think that special teams is going to be play a big part in this game. I think that this is where St. Joe Prep with Chada, their kicker, might
He's a factor.
Could be a factor in this game. I mean,
but Bruce Ryan, this kid here for Garnet Valley, this Zach Libertor, he kicked a 45-yarder.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he put Coatesville in the end zone more than a few times. I don't know if he has the kind of powerful leg Chada has, but he certainly has ability. He certainly has the distance, and he certainly has the confidence of Coach Ricky. And that if it comes down to a field goal to win this game of 30 or 35 yards, he'll allow the kid. He'll allow the young man to take that chance. He'll allow him to kick those distance field goals of 40, 45 yards.
Well, I'm just saying that special teams could be the deciding factor in this game. And St. Joe Prep, obviously, with Chada, I mean, he's a 4-year starter. He's one of those ice water in his veins kicker.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is obviously, you've touched on it all year, Joe, about St. Joe Prep. I mean, they've been here. They've done that, even though, all of these kids have still been on this team that have won, the consecutive state championships, a coaching staff with expectations. So I think that's why the game is going to be much closer. Obviously, with the experience, Garnet Valley, you're talking about the experienced team versus, St. Joe Prep, who's really, still growing. I mean, you've talked about that all year. The big difference there in teams that have been there, as far as senior leadership versus teams that are young. And that's why I think that St. Joe Prep getting off to a fast start is what has to happen if they
has to happen, Bruce.
It has to happen if they expect to be in this game.
Because here's the deal. If Garnet Valley gets out to that lead, and the Garnet Valley team that I saw on Friday night, now I've seen them 3 times this season. If you want to call it a clunker, I think they dropped 64. They did drop 64. I think it was 64-39 on Ridley. They had a clunker. You go win by 35 or 25 points, you call it a clunker. But they had some rough patches against a very talented Ridley team. They got off to a slow start against a Quakertown. That's right. So this will be the 4th time I've seen them. Uncharacteristic mistakes early in the Quakertown game. Quakertown gets off to a good start, and again, Garnet Valley struggles. But once they get going, they are unstoppable. No one's been able to stop this team, as it's that giant that you kick. It's that giant that you turn around and hit and scratch and claw and try to keep it down as much as you can. But once that giant gets his feet, you better run for the hills, man, because it's going to turn around and stomp on you and everybody else in that in its path. And that's what's happened with this Garnet Valley team. Again, waves upon waves upon waves of how they can attack you. Again, you have Buzenkill. You have young man Joey Halloran, two major receptions in that game. They can attack you on the perimeter. They can attack you up the middle. Again, that is a wing team. It's a wing T team, but they have different ways they have special talents that make that wing T look not so much like an antique.
Not so much wingy.
Yeah. So I do foresee a close game. But you're right, Bruce. I mean, the keys for Garnet for Prep, and the major key for Prep is this: they have to get off. They have to get off to a very, very good start. They cannot play catch up, because if they do play catch up, they're going to be looking up. And the deal is and Dave reiterated when we first began this conversation on the 6A level, is if there's going to be a blowout, I don't think there's going to be a blowout, but if there is going to be a blowout, the blowout I kind of see in Garnet Valley's favor. Now, I was wrong a month ago or 3 weeks ago when I saw LaSalle coming out and winning at Franklin Field in the Cal League Red Division Championship. That Prep team woke up. That Prep team showed what they are capable of doing, and they admitted it to me. They admitted themselves. We have not had the kind of season we expected, but when we get all cylinders rolling, and here's the other thing about Prep. They keep their cards hidden. You don't see everything that they're capable of doing. When I saw Prep against LaSalle the second time, it's a whole new set of things that they were running at LaSalle that the LaSalle people were telling me they hadn't seen at all this season. So who's to say what they showed and what they didn't show against Freedom?
Well,
that's all I'm going to say.
I get that. I get that too. But, sometimes coaches go a little bit over the top by trying to be, sometimes maybe the smartest guy in the room and not focusing on what got them there, and trying to, trick their way, through matchups. But, look, it is what it is. I still think that Garnet Valley wins this game. I think it's a lot closer than what people think. I think that that the senior leadership on Garnet Valley ultimately is the deciding factor.
But here's the deal with that, though, Bruce, is that, yes, the senior leadership is a key and it's a factor. It's going to play a role in this. But the twist of it is that Prep's the team that has the experience getting this far. Garnet Valley doesn't.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Exactly right.
So,
and that's why I think it will be a closer
but I think
game.
that might fall into like I said, into the state championship aspect. I think Garnet Valley still they've gotten to this point before. They just haven't gotten beyond it. So both teams.
Actually, Bruce, this is the first time ever getting this far at the 6A level.
Okay.
They've never gotten this far. This is their first district championship at the 6A level. This is the first time they've reached the 6A semifinals, where this again with Prep is, just talking to the guys, and we got a little bit of a scare against Freedom, but we had that under control. They don't panic, and in this situation, I would not like to think they're going to panic again if they get down, but they better certainly have their antennas up if it does get out of hand. Dave, what's your thoughts on this?
I truly believe just Prep's experience will keep this game close. But last year, you knew what Prep was about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This year, I don't know what Prep is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if they're a great team or not. And, I think it has a lot to do with some youth. And, to me, listen, every time, and I'll go back to the LaSalle game, every time when they hear they're not going to win, blah, 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 they come out and play.
And they find an extra gear.
Yes. And I think this is going to happen. And you talk about, Garnet Valley's coach, he will probably take a gamble here and there in his own zone and maybe try to go for a first down. Will that play into Prep's hands? Because if they don't make it and Prep scoring, I mean, that's basically a turnover. And so that is something I would be watching in this game, how well Garnet Valley's going to execute their drives. But in the end, listen, I don't know who's going to win this one, but I think it's going to be much closer than you think.
Yeah,
I think it'll be a close. I think it'll be a close game too.
Yeah.
What do you guys know about the West at 6A?
Well, all I know is that you've got State College, going up against Mount Lebanon. Mount Lebanon has had a wonderful year. This is, both teams are kind of in uncharted territory. State College, not so much. I know Coach Lindahl pretty well. I saw them earlier this year against Harrisburg, and kind of lose on a late touchdown there. They're a very solid team. They're not flashy at all. Mount Lebanon a little bit different. They're going to be pretty solid. Bob Palco is the head coach, actually.
Yeah.
My WPIAL coach. I mean, he's got so many WPIAL titles. He actually was
state titles.
Yeah, and he was our guest last week on my Blitz show out there with my buddy Ian. Very impressive. The moment is not going to be too big for Bob Palco and Mount Lebanon. I can tell you that, regardless of where they go. Just because the school hadn't got there, Bob Palco is going to lead them wherever that talent takes them. I like them to beat State College in the other semifinal and make it to Hershey, and face the winner here, Garnet Valley and St. Joe Prep. So it's going to be very interesting.
Is Mount Lebanon better than either Prep or Garnet Valley?
Let's just say this is a tough one. Quite honestly, the only way to connect the dots, is the fact that Mount Lebanon really dispatched of Pittsburgh Central Catholic pretty easily. So you kind of connect the dots, and obviously it isn't the same. Obviously Imhotep beat Pittsburgh Central Catholic, and they go with LaSalle, and St. Joe Prep, beats LaSalle. Look, you can't really connect it in that way. All I know is that in a game, let's just say I would think that the game would be closer if it was Garnet Valley rather than St. Joe Prep playing Mount Lebanon. But that's just me, right now, from what I know.
Yeah, and Joe, listen, Palco was the West Allegheny head coach back in the day. He battled Strathaven many years, and I'm just looking, West did win in 2001, and he lost in 2000 and 1999 to Strathaven. So he had a heck of a run with West Allegheny, and this is a coach that's been there, done that.
Yeah.
But he's taken this team, and these kids have believed in him. And again, they're in uncharted waters too, but
not the leader.
Yeah, but the thing is, these kids are fearless, out west, and I truly think they're going to beat State College, and then from there, I'll tell you what, they have nothing to lose. So I think you're going to see a lot of if they do make it, you're going to see some plays that this guy's going to throw at whoever it is, whether it's Garnet Valley or Prep. But again, if Garnet Valley does win, you have that great story with their head coach retiring. I mean, if he would win a state title
in his last game, I mean, that's incredible.
Oh my God.
That would be the story in Hershey. I mean, that everybody's going to point to if Garnet Valley wins this game. I mean, that's really, the story that everybody will point to is that just like with, Raw, having the, having the ability to set the record by winning,
Yeah.
by all the records he was going to set by winning that championship game, it would be the
Yeah.
same thing with Ricky in going out a champion. I mean, has that ever happened that somebody wins, knowingly wins the state title in their final game? Wow. I mean, I've never heard of
don't
that
think
yet.
it has.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
so.
don't think it
Where a
has.
guy announces
Yeah.
before the season, this is my last year, and then goes out as a state champion. That's just unheard of. But that's why we love sports, right? I mean,
Listen,
no one would
if he
believe that
wins it,
Hollywood script.
I hope someone has a big cigar for him. So if he wins the state title, he needs to be Joe Burrow and just sit there and smoke it. So
Yeah, right. That's
so
right. So,
yeah.
but
But
look,
but
before we go, I want to touch on one final topic
mhm,
that's come up. We all cover these games from various angles, on the field, in the press box, and what have you. And the PIAA has been so driven by um, uh, you know, uh, the teams playing in neutral sites, but yet there are
mhm.
some teams that are playing home games, and I just find it to be a difficult situation here that the PIAA is getting some of these neutral site games, and we've heard some horror stories of some guys that that the facilities aren't the best, and that not everything is open. And I experienced that a lot in District 3, and finally they just went away with it, and now, hey, everything's great. I mean, facilities open, when the higher seeded team hosts. I just think it's about time for the PIAA to maybe change the way they're thinking the football playoffs, and have whatever it is, the team that's at the higher end of the bracket or seeded, what have you, host the game, so that there's just some accountability on facilities and everything going on. And so that people know in advance, weeks in advance, where they're going so that they can plan. What are your thoughts about this, Dave?
Well, I'm looking at 3A, and this is a perfect example. District 7 on the west is the higher district. So Central Valley opened up their district at home, and then the following week played at West Allegheny, and then obviously in the WPIL championships at Heinz Field. They're hosting, Central out of District 6. And if I'm Central, I'm like, how could this
How could
happen?
that be a
I mean,
neutral site game?
exactly. And it's such a disadvantage. I mean, listen, everyone knows about Central's quarterback. The kid, I think, set the state record for touchdowns passing. And, but they're going in, I would say, definitely a huge
Either
underdog
decide
in
one
this
way or the
game.
other. Decide one way or the other. Either you're gonna have all neutral site games, or you're gonna say, hey, look, we're gonna do, whatever it is, whoever's at the top of the bracket, they're hosting, and do it on that kind of rotation, not this like.
Well, and look at it. Go back when East Stroudsburg South played Cathedral Prep. Actually, East Stroudsburg South should have hosted that game. Now, I get why it was a neutral game, neutral site, because you can't make Cathedral Prep drive all the way across the state to play a football game on a Friday night. Obviously they would have to take off from school. There's a lot of,
The
planning
fans,
on that.
and that's the thing, the fans as well. They're not taking into account the fans in these neutral site games. I'm just giving a perfect example. I mean, between Exeter and Penn Trafford, each team's going to have to drive 3 hours on a Friday night, to get there. Think of the fans. So at least
Well,
just have East and West brackets so that everybody is is aligned and are fairly close anyway.
And
These
probably
are all
my
guys, but what I'm getting and the feedback I'm getting about this from coaches is that, and it's kind of a shame what's going on, is schools don't want to host them. Neutral sites do not want to host these games.
That's why it's
And
important that teams know in advance that if we're on that side of the bracket and we've got the game that we're hosting, that there's accountability for that, and accountability for the facilities too. These neutral site facilities are ones that, well, that's just the way it is,
Here's my argument. Okay. You could be, and it's predetermined, District 7 and 3A is the higher district. Okay. So Central Valley, you're in the semifinals. Obviously, they're going to host the game. You could look at any other semifinals, whoever the highest bracket could host the game. But if you're going to do that, here's my opinion, then you need to seed it a little different.
Yeah.
Give the best team that is, do you think is the number one team, like Southern Columbia, the best team in AA, they have the number one seed throughout that whole district and state playoffs. So they could host all the way up and then go to Hershey. So
I agree.
That's the
not
only,
this sham that they had this year of these teams that supposedly it's supposed to be neutral site games, yet teams hosting, a home game. Like it's just like look, it was just like why I'm missing hosting, like hosting Scranton Prep at Governor Mifflin.
Yeah.
It's 3 blocks.
Yeah.
And Scranton Prep's driving 3 hours. I mean, or
and my
2.5.
thing is too, is you have all these games Friday night and 2 games Saturday when you could listen, just an average fan who's a big fan of football, if there was games at 12, 1 o'clock Saturday, then 7 o'clock Saturday, like Ridley's hosting 2 games. You could have both those games Saturday, have one at 1 and one at 7. It gives people the opportunity to go to more games. And, so that's kind of, I was really surprised there wasn't more games on Saturday.
And the only games that it really matters when it goes to the state tournament that you couldn't play a previous Saturday would be the 1A and 4A that are playing on a Thursday.
On Thursday.
You almost have to play those games on Friday. Okay, then put all of the other games on Saturday.
Well, or go by like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, so you have 1A and 4A. They'll, those games would be played on a Friday. Then you have Saturday, or Friday's games, which would be 2A and 5A. So you can have them on Friday, and then 6A, 3A games, have them all on Saturday. But I get, there's a lot that goes in it that we don't know, and I understand that. But yeah, I know there is a lot of people raising their eyebrows of where these locations have been.
Even forgetting about the locations, I think the facilities that they're being played at, that there has to be some accountability on the fact that, that you have facilities to host the event, decent press box facilities. You talked about the fact that not all the restrooms were open and what have you at a game. I mean, and so what accountability is there? It's a neutral site game, so who's accountable for that? If you've got at least a participant, they're going to make sure that all the people, I think, are accounted for, fairly. Fans, press, and and obviously the teams. So, but anyway, Joe, what's your feeling?
Well, like I said, I agree with everything you guys are saying. My fear in terms of having it changed is the PIAA deciding to put their foot down with this. And I don't know what kind of power and leverage they would have in putting their foot down with this. Again, it's hard enough to get anyone to host these games. Why? Again, like I said, I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. You have a game on a Friday night. You have a game on a Saturday afternoon. You're also dealing with that school district paying overtime for janitorial service, for security service.
Well, the
maintenance.
PIAA, I mean, recoups their costs. I mean, that's part of it too. But
I don't. Do they?
yeah,
They do.
I mean,
Okay.
the PIAA
Okay.
pay. I mean, it's just the fact that they don't want to fool with it. At least if it's a participant in the game, that there's some accountability for everything that that happens there too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like I said, I agree with what you guys are saying. I wish something could be done about it. But I don't know. I know, for example, I know there were strong feelings. St. Joe's Prep wanted the Garnet Valley Eastern semifinal game. They wanted that at Franklin Field. And I think you guys would all agree that Franklin Field may have been the better venue only because it is much larger. I don't know. Again, I think really may hold the most, maybe 7,000 or 8,000, but there's a chance there's going to be 10 or 12,000 for that game. I'm 10 minutes away from Ridley High School. It's great for me, but I'm also going to get there very early, before this thing starts, because it could be nasty. It could be very, very congested there. As a media person there, my second guess is, will I have access to a place where I could sit down and write on deadline, as opposed to sitting in my car, and heating it up, or what Dave's doing. Many stories come from that. So it's certainly something that needs to be brought up. Something that we're all going to be in Hershey, 2 weeks from now. Certainly something that we can raise that with Dr. Lombardo, and we'll see what he has to say about it. These guys here have, again, like I said, some of these many of these school districts just don't want to deal with it. They just don't want to deal with it. And
there's a lot more, and there's a lot more that we don't know behind the scenes. It's easy to criticize, what we see, but if schools aren't available and this is what's available, they can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's why I'm saying.
Let's twist this the other way around. Kudos to Ridley, and kudos to the Ridley School District for stepping up and be willing enough to host these very, very important football games. Kudos to Penridge for stepping up on a Friday night, on a rigid, nasty, what I'm sure is going to be a very cold Friday night, stepping up to host this state playoff game. Credit to them for doing that.
Yeah. I think having a participant involved eliminates just the things that both of you talked about. That if the PIAA made a conscious effort that they're going to bracket it based on the fact that that these schools there's going to be one host school, there's one going to be a travel school. Well, who is that going to be? Well, I don't know, but it's sure going to be easier, because people are going to know that, hey, if we win this game, we're going to host, or we're going to continue to host. And
that's what they do in District 1. That's what they do in District 1.
And that's what they do in District 3.
Yeah, District Championship was hosted by Garnet Valley. They were the top seed. They won throughout. Coatesville is pretty close, actually, to Garnet Valley. There was great representation from both schools there. Garnet Valley obviously sold out its side, but there was a very strong contingent from Coatesville that was there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. Like I said, the PIAA, it has trouble with attendance. Well, making fans drive 3 hours. I mean, this is, you're talking about on a Friday night. So somebody's going to have to drive 2.5 hours one way to a game that starts at 7, that finishes at 10, and then drive home 2.5 hours. They're going to get home at 1:30 in the morning, probably. Yeah. I mean, that's just not good for the fans either.
No, it's not. And I don't know what right now. I don't know what the solution could be.
The reason they do that is because they have these brackets so that these teams have, they're on each side of the state, and they're making fans drive to the center rather than to have the brackets on the east and the west. Okay. And so that the
Mhm.
maximum drive couldn't be any more than 2 hours. Then I'd say, okay, put it on a Friday night, but when it's 2.5 and then you got to drive another 2.5 or 3 hours after the game, that's just a tall order to make a fan do that, let alone the schools.
Yeah.
So
Well,
anyway,
the first thing
all
that
right.
happens, you start talking. I mean, and hopefully some talk can come about this, and maybe some people are willing to listen.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, it's been a lot of fun. This will be our kind of our last show here on pre-snap look this year. It's been a lot of fun with Mr. Santoliquito this year, Dave, Mika, all of your support for the show
Thank you.
this year. Really appreciate that. And hey, by the way, I think that us three will be in Hershey for EasternPAFootball.com, won't we?
I think so. And hopefully we could get Ian on, and the four of us could break down each game in Hershey.
Yeah, I think that would be I think that would be a great idea. That would be a lot of fun. So anyway, all right, gang. Well, listen, thank you so much. It's been a great year, and the next time that the three of us will convene will be in Hershey. A week from Thursday. So
I'm looking
Yep.
forward
pretty
to it, guys.
incredible. A week from
Yeah.
Thursday. So where is
Yeah.
the season going? But anyway, hey Joe, thanks so much for
Gotcha. Thank
everything
you.
that you've
Thank you,
done on the
guys.
Chris.
show, and Dave, thanks so much. And we'll see you guys at least a week from Thursday from Hershey.
Yeah. I'll see
For
Joe tomorrow.
for Joe and Dave, I'm Bruce Badgley. Thanks a lot, man. We'll see you later.